While Zhu Longyan was struggling to kick Han Sen, the latter ignored him and rammed his face with the cow head. It didn't take long before Zhu Longyan's body went limp. When Han Sen finally calmed down, he was already dead, with his face smashed in like a hunk of meat. With the body of a bloody slayer and sacred blood beast soul armor, even those who practiced hyper-geno arts couldn't resist such brutal impact. Han Sen let go of the body, and Zhu Longyan fell to the floor like a pool of mud. Having dismissed the beast's souls, Han Sen felt a severe pain. It was hurting so much in a few spots that it felt like his bones were broken. Han Sen dreaded to think what could have happened. He was injured so badly, even with the shapeshifting and armor. Zhu Longyan's hyper-geno art was really quite something. If he had the same beast souls, Han Sen wouldn't be a match for him. Looking at the dead body, Han Sen hesitated and then searched the body. There was a wallet, with no cash but several crystal credit cards in it, deluxe ones with high credit lines. He also found a memory chip. After some thought, Han Sen destroyed the wallet and credit cards and threw them, along with the dead body, into the deep pond, while keeping the memory chip. Several iron-toothed crocodiles emerged from the water and snapped at the dead body. Soon even the bones were gone. Han Sen was relieved and turned away. Too injured to keep hunting, Han Sen returned to Steel Armor Shelter, enduring the pain. The gang of Son of Heaven were still looking for Dollar, and the bounty had been raised. Unfortunately, no one had any interaction with Han Sen, so no one would know Dollar was actually Ass Freak. People were still talking about Dollar on the streets. Han Sen went all the way back to his room and checked out the copper-toothed beast, which had turned bronze in most parts, although the shade was still lighter than a true mutant copper-toothed beast. It probably would take more time for the evolution to complete. Han Sen closed the door and inserted the memory chip into a smart gadget, trying to find out Zhu Longyan's identity. Able to cross the mountains and swamps to reach Steel Armor Shelter, and having practiced a hyper-geno art that looked very advanced, Zhu Longyan would be a formidable opponent if he still had his beast souls with him and had not been injured. The smart gadget displayed the contents of the memory chip, and Han Sen only had to look for a while before he became wild with joy. Hyper-geno arts. It's a tutorial for hyper-geno arts. Han Sen almost laughed out loud. The hologram stored in the chip was a naked woman making odd movements while reciting arcane incantations. With each movement, she would also give some explanation. Although the woman was extremely beautiful, Han Sen was completely attracted to what she was talking about and had no other thoughts. Jadeskin. Isn't this the hypo-geno art used by Zhu Longyan? Han Sen had seen the power of Jadeskin when Zhu Longyan used it, and became even more happy. Having locked himself in the room for 48 hours, Han Sen finally memorized everything in the chip and destroyed it, as it could become a pitfall in the future. After watching the Jadeskin tutorial, Han Sen had a stronger sense that Zhu Longyan must have been somebody significant. Han Sen began to practice Jadeskin as he was recovering. He had thought before about buying a tutorial of a hyper-geno art, after he had earned some money. However, the ones that could be bought were all cheap, unlike Jadeskin, which he could tell was premium. Knowing that practicing Jadeskin might eventually expose him, Han Sen still decided to begin. If he missed Jadeskin, he might never have the opportunity to practice a premium hyper-geno art. Having practiced for several days, Han Sen felt his body had become cooler, and his body temperature was indeed 35 degrees Fahrenheit lower than normal. It was not a discomfort, but rather a refreshing feeling. Han Sen felt more fit, as if his body cells were full of energy. His body temperature didn't change further as he kept on practicing. Han Sen became more and more fit and his skin more and more smooth. Han Sen, what have you been up to lately? It's been a while since we met. Let's hang out sometime. The hologram of a smiling, handsome, long-haired man about Han Sen's age popped out from the comlink. Where are we going? Han Sen was delighted to see Zhang Denfeng, the long-haired guy. They grew up together, and he was son of Mr. Zhang, the lawyer. Come out first. Han Hao and Zhu Zai are also with me, and we are almost there, Zhang Denfeng said. Sure. Han Sen nodded and went out the door. Han Sen got in and saw a girl and a guy talking in the back seats. The girl named Zhu Zai was very pretty and gentle, and the guy was Han Hao, son of Han Sen's fat aunt. Han Sen's aunt was an aggressive woman, so Han Hao inherited her family name. Han Hao took a look at him and continued to talk to Zhu Zai, ignoring Han Sen. Zhu Zai, you should see it. Dollar just waved his hand and turned into a monster with horse legs, a human upper body and a cow head in golden armor. Son of Heaven and his gang could do nothing but watch him gallop away. Han Sen was somewhat surprised to see Han Hao sputtering on. He did not know Han Hao was also randomly sent to the Steel Armor Shelter. Han Hao was 3 months younger than him, so he should have just had his birthday and gained access to God's sanctuary. For unknown reasons, if those under 16 were teleported, their bodies would suffer irreversible damage. So according to the Alliance laws, one must be 16 years old to be teleported to God's sanctuary, regardless of social status. "Hey Frenzy, where are we going?" Han Sen asked Zhang Denfeng. Although Zhang Denfeng was a good-looking man, he became crazy whenever he was in a fight, hence the nickname. Zhang Denfeng's face lit up. "Starlight Martial Hall. My idol Tang Zhenliu's going to be in an exhibition fight held there. He was the chosen last year, and his broadsword skills are so fierce." Zhang Denfeng was full of yearning. In this era where everyone was focused on evolution, stars no longer came from acting, singing, sports and esports, but from fighting. In God's sanctuary, once every year the martial hall of each shelter would open at the same time, and those in the top 100 could have their names on the martial steel in the martial hall. The champions from each shelter would be eligible to compete among themselves. And the same happened in all 4 phases of God's sanctuary. The top 10 from each phase could have their names on the sacred steel, which was public to everyone in the same phase, and gain the title the Chosen. And the 10 chosen would become the hottest stars of the year. In recent years, Qin Xuan had always been the champion of steel armor shelter, but her name was never on the sacred steel, so she was never among the top 10 of First God's Sanctuary. Ranking number 5 last year, Tang Zhenliu was known for his fierce broadsword skills. He was very popular among young people and even more well-liked than the top 4. He was paid as high as 10 million Livo dollars for any exhibition match. Knowing his popularity, Han Sen was nevertheless shocked when he saw a full house at Starlight Martial Hall, which could accommodate more than 100,000 people. Many crazy fans were holding signs and calling out Tang Zhenliu's name. When he appeared, a girl was so excited that she fainted. "If I could have my name on the sacred steel like Tang Zhenliu once in my life, then I'd know I've lived," Zhang Denfeng said admiringly. "You will frenzy." Han Sen smiled and said, watching the young people around him going crazy for Tang Zhenliu's appearance. "You've gained a mutant beast soul already. Tell the truth, did you hunt it or pay for it?" Zhang Denfeng cried, staring at Han Hao. "Of course I hunted it myself," Han Hao said loudly. Han Sen laughed to himself. Since he was a kid, Han Hao had always raised his voice when he lied. His parents probably bought him the mutant beast soul with an enormous amount of money. The cheapest mutant beast soul would cost millions, and good ones tens of millions. So that's why his relatives were after the old house. It was a huge expense for them. Although the company had earned a lot of money, they had probably spent it all by now. Tang Zhenliu was indeed awesome. Although it was just an exhibition fight, his broadsword skills were so swift and fierce that his broadsword almost became invisible. After watching for a while, Han Sen knew that Tang Zhenliu must have practiced premium hyper-geno arts and learned his weapon skills from masters, and he was no competition to Tang Zhenliu. Tang Zhenliu won the fight and summoned a beast soul to perform, shapeshifting into a 3-meter-tall Tyrannosaurus creature, and smashing a huge stone with its head, arousing a burst of screaming. "Sacred Blood Beast Soul of Raging Dementor. I would do anything for a beast soul like this." Zhang Denfeng stared at Tang Zhenliu, who turned into a monster with a watering mouth. "This is nothing. This beast soul is nothing like the $1 has." Han Hao sputtered about dollar as if it were himself. It would take a showdown to tell. Tang Zhenliu was Denfeng's idol, so he was upset to hear that. I don't know how good dollar was, but his sacred blood beast soul was robbed from others, and it was not a chivalric act. Even if he had a great beast soul, he would not be comparable to Zhenliu. Han Sen blushed with shame and thought, "Oh Frenzy, you didn't know what a hard time I was having. How could I let go of an opportunity like that? Not to mention Son of Heaven was my enemy." Han Sen was hesitating whether or not to tell them that dollar was himself, but decided not to. It wouldn't do them any good, after all. Han Sen kept practicing jade skin and recovering after he returned home. Every 2 days he went to God's sanctuary to check on the copper-toothed beast. It took the beast half a month from the time it swallowed the black crystal to become a mutant creature, but it was still the size of an ordinary copper-toothed beast, while the mutant copper-toothed beasts Han Sen had seen were twice that size. In addition to the size, the one he evolved into wasn't much stronger either, not even close to a true mutant one. Han Sen took out his alloy dagger and slashed the beast on the neck, but caused no damage at all. It was his dagger that chipped, so it is somewhat different from an ordinary one. Han Sen shapeshifted into a bloody slayer and snapped its neck by force. Mutant copper-toothed beast killed. No beast soul gained. Eat its flesh to gain 0 to 10 mutant geno points. The sound in his mind overjoyed Han Sen. It might look different than a wild mutant copper-toothed beast, but it was fine as long as it was indeed a mutant creature. Su Xiaoqiao was depressed these days. Qin Xuan asked him to find dollar, but he didn't know dollar any more than she did, so what was he supposed to do? Early in the morning, Su Xiaoqiao was tripped by something and fell flat on his face. Who is this cur that placed a stone in front of my room? He's dead if I find out. Even more depressed than before, Xiaoqiao saw that there was something under the stone. He took a closer look and found a note in a bundle. The note said, goods worth 50,000 delivered. Lear Square. If you want more, come to Zephyr Valley tomorrow. Cash only. Although there was no signature, a coin was drawn at the lower left corner, making clear who it was from. Dollar. Su Xiaoqiao was thrilled but didn't make a sound this time. Looking around and seeing no one, he took the bundle and note and closed the door. Su Xiaoqiao carefully opened the bundle and saw a long strip of meat jerky the size of 2 or 3 bites. Su Xiaoqiao chewed up the meat jerky and swallowed. Mutant copper-toothed beast flesh eaten. 1 mutant geno point gained. The voice in his mind surprised Xiaoqiao. Mutant copper-toothed beast flesh. So it was hunted by dollar. He must have more now that he asked me to bring cash to Zephyr Valley. Thinking of this, he got even more excited that he could bring Qin Xuan's message to dollar and buy mutant flesh from him at the same time. Early in the morning, Su Xiaoqiao set off to Zephyr Valley. He waited from early morning to noon but didn't see dollar coming. He must have fooled me. Su Xiaoqiao was so upset that he was preparing to leave, but then heard someone say, you brought cash. Shocked, Su Xiaoqiao turned around and saw dollar in golden armor emerging from below the ground. Brother, did you hide there all morning? Su Xiaoqiao said, staring at Han Sen. I've been hiding here since last night. You know what's going on right now, and I have to be careful. Han Sen said casually, I admire you dollar, but you really have nothing to worry about. I'm so grateful you would sell me mutant flesh and would never betray you. Su Xiaoqiao gave Han Sen the thumbs up. It was incredible that he could stay underground for the whole night and the entire morning. It must have been so uncomfortable. Tut the crap. Did you bring the money? Han Sen pulled out another bundle from the pit where he was hiding and placed it in front of Xiaoqiao. Su Xiaoqiao looked inside the bundle, which was full of the same meat jerky he had eaten yesterday. There must have been more than 5 pounds of it. He excitedly asked, dollar, did you make all this from the mutant copper-toothed beast? Yep, an entire mutant copper-toothed beast is right here. 2 million, and no bargaining, Han Sen said. Well, 2 million is fine. Su Xiaoqiao handed 2 stacks of 10,000 notes to Han Sen, but doubted whether the entire beast was really there, as there should have been more meat. Han Sen noticed his doubt, took the money and said, this meat jerky is made in traditional ways, so it shrank a bit. Rest assured that the whole beast is here. Han Sen made the copper-toothed beast into meat jerky so that no one would wonder why the beast was so tiny. Of course I trust you. Su Xiaoqiao paused and said, dollar, you should know that I work for Qin Xuan. She has a message for you. She wants to buy the sacred blood beast soul and golden axe you gained the other day, and she could offer you a good price. Oh, what is the price? Han Sen was interested in selling the golden axe, as it was not that portable. He hadn't found a chance to use it, so it was still buried. You will have to figure this out yourselves. I'm just the messenger. Su Xiaoqiao shrugged and said, if you meet with Qin Xuan, tell her if she really wants to buy it, she can name a price and you can bring it to me. Han Sen said lightly. It was too risky for her to meet Qin Xuan. Han Sen took back the beast's soul armor and returned to Steel Armor Shelter. When he was entering the gate, he met an acquaintance. Sen. Han Hao was surprised to see him. Han Hao, you know ass freak. Han Hao's companions all recognized Han Sen and looked at Han Hao strangely. No, wrong guy. Let's go. Han Hao paused and looked embarrassed. Without saying hello, he walked past Han Sen. Han Hao hadn't expected Han Sen to be in the same shelter, nor that he was also the infamous ass freak. If word got out that he was Han Sen's cousin, Han Hao couldn't imagine what Son of Heaven and Qin Xuan would do to him. Han Sen smiled wryly and did not expose Han Hao's lie. Since Han Hao didn't want anything to do with him, why would he do his cousin any harm? With 2 million on him, Han Sen left God's sanctuary and went back home. He asked Mr. Zhang to help with the legal procedures regarding the old house to avoid any further disputes with his relatives. After that, Han Sen felt a lot more relaxed. Everything would be taken care of and life would only get better. When he earned more money, Han Yan could go to a private school, where she could get a much better education than he did. In some elite schools, she could even learn hyper-geno arts and have a much better start. To enter an elite school, however, her family must be aristocratic. So Han Sen must complete 1 evolution and gain the title. That would be a piece of cake for me. I could even have the title of Sacred Blood Aristocrat if I want. Han Sen left Steel Armor Shelter and went all the way into the mountains. He didn't plan to hunt copper-toothed beasts anymore, as he had had enough of their meat and would no longer gain primitive geno points from it. It was another primitive creature that he was going after. He could eat several and also bring back a living one to evolve. Han Sen had chosen a place called Barathrum Cave for hunting this time. It was a remote cave in the mountains where primitive creatures, quartz scorpions, lived. Because it was so dark and narrow in Barathrum Cave, even with lighting equipment, sometimes it was still difficult to see quartz scorpions hidden in rock tunnels. If stung by these scorpions, it would take a mere 3 to 5 minutes before someone who had maxed out on primitive geno points would be poisoned to death. Therefore, few people would choose quartz scorpions as their targets. With Black Beetle armor, however, Han Sen wasn't risking much, as it was not likely that quartz scorpions could get to him. He chose quartz scorpions because, first, it was easy to hide himself from the public in the cave, and second, a quartz scorpion was only the size of a fist, so it would be easy for him to carry their bodies back, unlike the large prey which were hard to transport. Third, if he happened to gain the beast soul of a quartz scorpion, he would also make a fortune, as it was a weapon like a military knife which was poisoned and incredibly sharp. As a primitive beast soul, its price was almost as high as a mutant one. At the mouth of the cave, Han Sen made sure he was alone and summoned his armor, entering Barathrum Cave prepared. As modern lighting equipment didn't work in God's sanctuary, Han Sen brought a self-made torch, with which he could only see several feet in front of him. With mica and the rocks reflecting the light, he could hardly see the hidden scorpions. Clank! Han Sen soon felt a hit on his foot. He looked down and saw a deep blue scorpion the size of his fist stinging him on the feet with its tail. Fortunately, Han Sen's feet were also wrapped in armor, and the scorpion tail couldn't hurt him at all. Han Sen stepped on the quartz scorpion and crushed it. Protected by the Black Beetle armor, Han Sen killed all quartz scorpions he saw on the way. Han Sen heard the other name he had given himself when he was on a spree. Shocked, he peered in the direction where the voice came from. In the cave sat a woman in her 20s leaning against stalagmites, looking at him surprised. "Qin Xuan," Han Sen exclaimed. Not expecting to see this woman here, Han Sen turned around to run. Since he had stabbed her in the rear, he had had nightmares about it. "Don't go. I don't care about the grudge between you and Son of Heaven. And even if I wanted to look for trouble, I wouldn't be able to," Qin Xuan quickly said. Han Sen paused and looked back at Qin Xuan, whose ankle was swollen and badly bruised. Clearly, she had been stung by a quartz scorpion. It suddenly hit Han Sen that Qin Xuan must have so many treasures on her since she had been in Steel Armor Shelter for years and wished to evolve with the maximum sacred geno points. She must have sacred blood beast souls and very many mutant beast souls. At this point she was injured, and it looked quite serious. She had so many geno points that the scorpion poison might not kill her, but her ability to fight surely had suffered, or at least she couldn't move her injured leg. Although I was the one who stabbed her, she hit me back right away and has been ruthless to me ever since. If I could blackmail her right now, that would be some compensation for my suffering these months, Han Sen thought, leering at Qin Xuan. As if she could see through him, Qin Xuan summoned a beast soul in the shape of a purple butterfly, which turned into a purple dagger in her hand. "You know the name of this dagger?" Qin Xuan asked him with a smile. "I don't." Han Sen noticed the gleam of the dagger, but she couldn't have summoned it for its beauty. It must be at least a mutant beast soul and even possibly a sacred blood beast soul. This dagger is the beast soul of a malicious butterfly, and it is envenomed with strong poison. You decide if your armor could block my dagger. Qin Xuan was still smiling. Qin Xuan couldn't see Han Sen blushing because his armor blocked his face. "You worry too much. We just met and have no hard feelings between us whatsoever. Why would I try to hurt you?" The sacred blood armor might not have been able to block the sacred blood dagger. Han Sen would not take the chance. Besides, they weren't really enemies either, as Qin Xuan didn't do anything more than make a few threats. It was Son of Heaven and his gang that really bullied him. Qin Xuan smiled and took back her dagger. "I can't move. If you can take me out of the cave safely, I will pay you a generous reward." "How come you came here alone?" Han Sen asked, not agreeing straight away. He was curious how Qin Xuan was able to come this far when there was no trace of quartz scorpions being hunted on the way. "Originally I wanted to kill a mutant quartz scorpion, but it was more cunning than I thought. It started to attack me, leading other scorpions when my incense was about to burn out, so that I couldn't leave the cave. The primitive scorpions no longer feared me when the incense was gone. I was able to fight them off but was stung by a mutant quartz scorpion. so now it's even less likely that I can leave here. Qin Xuan looked at Han Sen and said, didn't you barter with Su Xiaoqiao for money? Take me out and I'll offer you that. You were stung by a mutant quartz scorpion. Han Sen looked at her, horrified. If it was just a sting by a primitive quartz scorpion, I wouldn't have asked for help, Qin Xuan said casually. Han Sen now knew it was incense that kept the quartz scorpion's sway from Qin Xuan, and she thought that he must have used the same method. What she didn't know was that he had killed all quartz scorpions on the way out. If she had known, she would have walked away herself. Did you not kill the mutant scorpion? Han Sen asked again. Yes, but I did not get a beast's soul. No one could get the flesh either, as it's full of scorpions out there, Qin Xuan said. I'll take you, not for money but for a mutant beast's soul. You are too greedy. Qin Xuan glanced at him. Miss Qin, for you, a mutant beast's soul is nothing. Is your life not worth it? Han Sen said. All right then. Qin Xuan looked at Han Sen earnestly. Amazing. You have a deal, miss. Han Sen walked farther into the cave. Chapter 18, Mutant Creature. What are you doing? Qin Xuan frowned. I'll take you out after picking up the corpse of the mutant quartz scorpion you killed. Han Sen continued to go inside. There are so many scorpions there. Don't you need incense? Qin Xuan looked at Han Sen, puzzled. Why do men need incense? Han Sen came back with a giant blue scorpion about a foot long in his hand. Qin Xuan sighed after looking him up and down. I was tricked by you. You have already killed all the quartz scorpions out there, haven't you? Smart girl. Han Sen poured the dead scorpions from his bag, which soon piled into a heap. Although Qin Xuan had guessed it, she was still surprised to see that Han Sen had killed so many scorpions. Han Sen put the corpse of the mutant scorpion in his bag first before he started to fill it with primitive scorpions. There were still a few that wouldn't fit in there, and he didn't waste those but ate all the flesh until he had cleaned them up. Primitive quartz scorpion flesh eaten. 4 primitive geno points gained. I haven't seen anyone quite like you, willing to eat such disgusting things. Qin Xuan had never met someone who had such nice equipment but remained so stingy. Come on. Han Sen squatted next to Qin Xuan, wanting to carry her out on his back. Since there are no scorpions anymore, I could just walk out, Qin Xuan said. You have promised me a mutant beast soul and couldn't take that back anyway. Why not enjoy my service with your injured leg? Han Sen said. You are right. Why not? She bit her bottom lip, got up and carefully climbed onto the back of Han Sen. With the armor, Han Sen couldn't really enjoy the feeling of her body against his. He walked out, carrying Qin Xuan, with his bag in one hand. She only weighed about 100 pounds, which was nothing for Han Sen, who had already gained quite a lot geno points. They emerged from the cave in no time. Where are you going? Asked Han Sen. Back to the shelter, Qin Xuan said. Han Sen no longer spoke and carried her towards steel armor shelter. After an hour, he let her down. It is not too far away from the shelter now, and people pass by here all the time. Wait for a while, and then ask them to bring you back. Han Sen extended an empty hand to Qin Xuan. Now, my mutant beast soul. I have asked Su Xiaoqiao to send a message. Would you sell me the sacred blood beast soul and gear? Qin Xuan didn't hesitate before she handed over a mutant beast soul in the shape of a black cat to Han Sen. What is your offer for the golden double-edged axe? Han Sen asked. 2 million. That is a piece of sacred blood gear, while 2 million won't even get you a mutant beast soul. Han Sen frowned. Sacred blood gear is very nice, but you can't take it to the real world, while beast souls could be used outside God's sanctuary. That explains the price. If you would sell a sacred blood beast soul, I'd give you 20 million, explained Qin Xuan. A mutant beast soul, plus 2 million, Han Sen said. A mutant beast soul is out of the question. I'll give you 5 million. Flesh of 2 mutant creatures and 2 million. You are asking too much. Final offer, 6 million. After all, you can't take it outside, Qin Xuan said. Okay, get the money ready. I will tell Xiaoqiao when and where we trade, Han Sen said and left with his bag. You really would not consider selling the sacred blood beast soul. 20 million is just a tentative offer. We could discuss further, Qin Xuan said to his back. No way. Han Sen left without pausing. Qin Xuan looked at him leaving and thought. His armor was tougher than the quartz scorpion's sting. It must also be a sacred blood beast soul. Who was he? He doesn't look like a soldier. She had no clue. Han Sen went back to his original look and returned to the shelter with his bag. There was no one guarding the gate anymore. They had searched for dollar for so long and found nothing, so they had to give up. Coincidentally, Han Sen ran into Han Hao and his friends again. Nice to see you again, ass freak. You have a full bag with you. How many mutant creatures did you hunt? A young man ridiculed him. 1. Han Sen replied calmly. Haha, you are funny. Could you even hunt primitive creatures? It must be full of black beetles there, laughed the young man, leading everyone to burst into laughter. No one believed Han Sen could get a mutant creature. Han Hao, don't mistake him for anyone. If you knew him, you'd forever have bad luck. A young man patted Han Hao on the shoulder. No way, I'd no ass freak. Han Hao looked embarrassed. Han Sen ignored them and carried his bag back to his room. He saved the mutant quartz scorpion and was going to sell Su Xiaoqiao all the rest. Although he could evolve a creature into a mutant 1.5 months with the black crystal, he'd rather use the crystal to get sacred blood creatures. In the middle of the night, Han Sen placed a bag of dead quartz scorpions and a note at the door of Su Xiaoqiao's room before knocking a few times. Then he hid in an alley close by and made sure Su Xiaoqiao took the bag and note inside. It turned out to be a nice collaboration, and Han Sen got the 6 million promised by Qin Xuan and another 80,000 for the scorpions. He went back to his room with boxes of cash and almost jumped with joy. Even when his father was still alive, he had never seen so much money at once. Han Sen left God's sanctuary with the money, since the only thing he wanted to do right now was to share the joy with his mother and sister. Their adversity had finally ended. The 2 million he earned before was all used on solving the issue of the old house, and he could eventually have the 6 million to himself, which was a totally different feeling. Although the money was not even enough for the rich to buy a luxury airplane, for Han Sen it was already the most money he had seen in his life. Mom, Yan, I have something to show you. Han Sen pulled them into his room and poured the cash onto his bed. Where did you get so much money? Luo Sulan was first frightened instead of being surprised, fearing that her son might have done something dangerous. Mom, I was lucky to have killed a mutant creature and gained the beast's soul, so I traded it for this money. Han Sen did not dare to tell the truth, afraid that Luo Sulan might get worried. He didn't dare to leak anything about the black crystal, as the precious stone may land its innocent possessor in jail. His whole family could be wiped out if word got out. Luo Sulan said ruefully, Sen, you should not have sold it. It could be of great help to you, and we could always get by. Mom, no worries. I will have another chance. I've eaten the mutant flesh and gained mutant geno points. In the future, it'll be much easier for me to hunt, and everything will get better. But Luo Sulan still felt bad, as it was not that easy to kill a mutant creature. For ordinary people, it would be great luck to hunt one, just like winning the lottery, so there may never be a second time. Yan is about to start school, and I'm not letting her to go to a public one like I did, Han Sen said. Luo Sulan looked at her children with tears in her eyes. It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of you. Mom, you are a great woman, and you are the one who raised us. Let me contribute a little as well. Han Sen picked up Han Yan. Yan, let's go out to eat. You can have whatever you want today. Han Yan's face lit up. I want to eat sapphire ice cream. Sure, let's go have sapphire ice cream. Han Sen pinched Han Yan's small nose. Sapphire ice cream is too expensive. You don't need to splurge with the money. Save it to buy some meat. Just once. Han Sen went out, holding Luo Sulan's hand. Don't tell others you have hunted a mutant creature or you sold a mutant beast's soul. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. Luo Sulan urged her son. Since Han Sen's father had the accident, Luo Sulan had changed. She no longer wanted Han Sen to be in charge but just to be safe. Mom, relax. I will not say a thing. You keep the money and decide what to do with it. Han Sen went out of the house holding his sister with one hand and his mother with the other. Sapphire ice cream was famous throughout the alliance and was also very expensive. Even the cheapest type cost more than 10,000. Their neighbors' kids were always having sapphire ice cream, and Han Sen also had tried it a few times when he was younger. However, when Han Yan was born, they were already bankrupt, so they couldn't afford such luxuries anymore. Having the impression that the ice cream was delicious, Han Sen could no longer remember what it tasted like. When the three came to Sapphire, all the seats were taken, and there was a long line to buy ice cream. Let's go upstairs. Before Han Sen entered the store, he saw through the window that the second floor was almost empty, so he thought the ladies could go upstairs and have a seat while he would stand in line alone. At the stairs, he was stopped by a waiter. I am sorry, you cannot go up, the waiter said. Why? Aren't there any seats upstairs? Han Sen frowned. Contemptuous and impatient, the waiter pointed to a notice on the wall. You should have heard about our rule even if you have never had our ice cream before. Han Sen looked at the notice, which said, the distinguished and aristocrats only, and understood what he was referring to. So the second floor was an area exclusively for people with privileges, and ordinary people weren't even allowed to enter. No wonder the second floor had much better decorations yet was so empty. We don't need to sit down. "We'll just wait here, and you go get Yan ice cream," said Luo Sulan, trying to spare Han Sen. "And going." Han Sen smiled and went to the back of the line. He seemed to be indifferent, but was suddenly possessed by an aspiration. What's so special about the distinguished and aristocrats? Soon I shall have it all and more. The stupid notice will never get in my way again. There still were no empty seats when it was his turn to buy the ice cream, so Han Sen had to order takeout. Before leaving, he took another look at the notice, the distinguished and aristocrats only. That will be all for now. I hope you find this story interesting. Leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you won't miss the next part of this story. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.